Hi, this is Brian Noyes, and in this module we're going to dive deeper into bindings and look at a number of additional properties that let you unleash the full power of what a binding can do for you for specialized scenarios. First up, we're going to look at a property called Update Source Trigger, and this is a property on a binding that controls when data flows from the target to the source in two-way data binding scenarios. The default mode is when focus changes, but you'll see there's a number of other options there, and I'll explain how that works. Next, we're going to talk about converters. Converters give you a lot of power because it allows you to insert an object between the source and the target object, conceptually, hooked up through the binding, and the data will flow through that converter. So as the data flows from the source to the target, you can change the value or the type of the object that's being used to set the target property. And likewise, in a two-way data binding scenario, as data flows from the target to the source, you can do a similar transformation, either in value or in type. Next, we'll talk about async bindings. Normally, bindings all happen on the UI thread, but sometimes you may need to have the get and set block of your source property called on a background thread, and async bindings allow you to do that. Then we'll talk about fallback values, and this is really two separate properties on a binding, one called fallback value and one called target null value, that allow you to provide alternate values to be used when the source object can't be resolved properly. Next, we'll talk about format string. This is an automatic converter of sorts that lets you convert from the source property into a formatted string using any standard .NET format string to render out the value the way you want to present it to the user. Finally, we'll finish off with a couple of specialized bindings called a multi-binding and a priority binding. These bindings allow you to aggregate multiple bindings into a collection, and in the case of the multi-binding, you can come up with a single value based on the individual values of those multiple bindings. And in the case of the priority binding, you can pick from one of the child bindings which one to use based on a priority scheme. So let's dive right in and see how these modify the behavior of our bindings.